and welcome back to Unfiltered American Media. Yes, it's been a minute. We hit a few bumps, but we're back refreshed, refocused, and very much unfiltered. Now let's get into it. Representative Ilhan Omar was caught doing what she suddenly does best. Speedwalking away from reporters after being confronted with questions about alleged stolen money tied to her and her husband through multiple fraud schemes in her home district. Alleged because apparently that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting these days. And honestly, I'm calling her Fraud Omar. Or better yet, Fraud Omar laughs. It fits the moment. This is not some tiny side story. This is big. Republicans say they're finally closing in on the truth. And judging by Omar's reaction, those questions must be landing a little too close to home. Because when the cameras come out, she doesn't answer. She runs. Watch this moment. It's incredible. No statements, no explanations, just a quick exit.
So while Bovino's cracking down in Minnesota, House Republicans turning the heat up on Ilhan Omar. They want to know how she got all that money.
What your response is to the Oversight Committee launching an investigation into your net worth, you and your husband's net worth. They're claiming that it's risen rapidly. What's your response to what they're saying?
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. All right, Mr. Comer, you were in banking before politics, right? So she suddenly in 1 year, after being worth a few $1,000s, is now worth $30 million. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, and the way the financial disclosure forms are, there's a big variation. But here's what we know: she went from zero to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year. Now, why is that relevant? First of all, I don't know many people that go from 0 to 30 without having a legitimate business. Her husband is in some type of finance business, but we don't know what it is. It doesn't appear to be private equity. Doesn't appear to be venture capital. So we just have questions. What exactly is the business that you're involved in? It was kind of like the same questions we asked Hunter Biden that he never could answer. But then, you know, she won't answer any questions. The Ethics Committee is supposed to investigate members. We're not supposed to investigate individual members, but this business is in her husband's name. So we can investigate her husband, and we are going to do that because we're, as you know, in the middle of this Minnesota welfare fraud. And there's been a lot of accusations about a circle of influential Somali Americans that are benefiting from these financial scams in Minnesota. Her name is on the list. Now, she's going to get due process. I don't know if she's guilty, but what I know is she went from 0 to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year, and she won't even answer a simple question like you saw there.
Representative Ilhan Omar is now under serious scrutiny after newly released financial disclosures revealed what can only be described as a miraculous glow-up in her personal finances. And I mean miraculous. According to the filings, Omar went from having basically nothing to being linked to assets worth tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions in a very short period of time. And naturally, everyone's asking the obvious question, how? Because, wow, that's not a side hustle, that's a financial fairy tale. Now, instead of calmly explaining how this all adds up, Omar has chosen a different strategy: avoidance. She's brushed off reporters, walked away from questions, and in some cases practically stormed off, just like you saw in the previous clip. And look, people don't run from questions when everything's clean and tidy. She's not stupid. Let's be clear about that. She knows that if she opens her mouth and slips even once just one moment of weakness, it's over. Dead in the water. So silence becomes the strategy. Now, let's be very generous for a moment. Let's say, no, air quotes, it's all completely on the up and up. Everything checks out. Totally legit. Even then, it still looks bad. The optics are terrible. The timing is suspicious. The growth is explosive, and she's done absolutely nothing to reassure the public. And then there's her own rhetoric. This is someone who's openly said figures like Charlie Kirk belong in the dustbin of history. Charming. So at that point, you have to ask, do the people of Minnesota really feel represented here? Because this whole thing is just alienating. Here's the bottom line. She's boxed herself in either way. Either she's hiding something and knows she might finally get caught after getting away with it for years, or she's innocent, but her attitude, her behavior, and her refusal to engage have made her politically radioactive. Either option, not great. And no, I'm not protecting her. I genuinely believe Fraud Omar, yes, Fraud Omar has some level of involvement here. The scale of the alleged fraud is massive. The wealth spike is alarming. And the timing raises way too many red flags to ignore. She's now under investigation by Republicans on the Oversight Committee. Great. Fine. We've seen this movie before. Big reports, dramatic language, headlines for a week, and then nothing happens. Exposure is good. Public attention matters. But what people actually want, what Americans want, are real consequences for those who abuse power, rig the system, and allegedly steal from the public while sitting comfortably in Congress. Because if this all just ends with another report and no accountability, then that tells you everything you need to know.
It's very suspicious when you have millions of the Somali cash just flying all over Minneapolis with no scrutiny whatsoever. Wasn't there also a vineyard involved here? The husband's involved in the wine business?
Yeah. There's a thing called money laundering where people have businesses and they deposit, lots of cash. Again, I'm not accusing them of any wrongdoing, but she should answer a simple question. If any member of Congress is asked what business their family's involved in, I've never seen one fail to answer it. That's not a hard question. My husband has a private equity firm and he's done exceptionally well in the last 12 months. She won't answer that question. And everybody in America suspects foul play here.
Right.
And again, we're going to find out. It's not going to be hard to figure out what business he's in and where the money came from. So that's going to be a central part of our entire Minnesota fraud investigation, because she is the leader in Congress, in the district, in the congressional district where the overwhelming majority of the welfare fraud is taking place. Her name, as well as the Attorney General Keith Ellison's name, have been mentioned as people of interest. I'll put it like that, Jesse. So we're gonna follow through on this, and I think she's gonna have.
Now, you just heard the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, lay out some very troubling information about Ilhan Omar. And at this point, let's be honest, hardly anyone is pretending this all looks normal anymore. Because here's the thing, Washington insiders usually know. They know who's dirty. They know who's cutting corners. They know who's been doing XYZ for years. But nothing happens, not because no one sees it, but because the timing isn't right. The attorney's compromised. The judge is compromised. The politics aren't lined up yet. So everyone waits. And suddenly, now it's politically convenient. What's being suggested, again, alleged before the fact checkers start warming up, is that Fraud Omar may have benefited from serious financial misconduct tied to her home district. Money laundering, welfare fraud, massive failures in oversight that allowed taxpayer money to disappear. These aren't conspiracy theories pulled from thin air. We've already seen large-scale fraud cases exposed in Minnesota that revealed how broken enforcement really is. Billions gone, accountability missing. And when you look at Omar's financial disclosures, this sudden, explosive jump in net worth while serving in office, the timing doesn't just raise eyebrows. It sets off alarms because it doesn't look random. It doesn't look gradual. It lines up. Almost too neatly. Welfare fraud exposure, pandemic fraud exposure, then boom, personal wealth skyrockets. Now, could she be the unicorn? The once-in-a-generation success story where everything checks out perfectly? Sure, in theory, but optics matter. And her words, her behavior, her refusal to engage, honestly, have alienated a lot of people. Yes, she still has diehard supporters. Every politician does. But most Americans are sitting there going, something's off. Republicans are now turning up the pressure, not just on Omar, but on her husband's business dealings as well. Investigators want to know where the money came from, whether everything was properly disclosed, and whether there are conflicts of interest tied to the massive fraud scandals in her state. And look, Republicans keep saying this isn't political. Okay, I get why they say that, but let's be adults. Politics is messy, accountability is political. Wanting someone removed from office because they allegedly abuse the system, that's both accountability and politics. Those things can exist at the same time. The real question is this: will anything actually happen? Because we've all seen oversight committees drop damning reports before big headlines, lots of outrage, and then silence. If this investigation actually leads to consequences, then great. That's how the system is supposed to work. If not, then Americans are going to feel, once again, that the rules only apply to some people. So we'll see what comes out of Minnesota. We'll see what the evidence shows, and we'll see whether accountability is real or just another talking point. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching Unfiltered American Media. I'm Caroline. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.